What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the reveal of the number 9 team in my 2019 NFL Power Rankings with a deep dive into the Los Angeles Chargers. And this team's kind of been one of my babies over the last few years. When we first started these deep dives in 2017, I was way higher on this team, said the roster was one of the best in the NFL on paper. They went out, had a good 9-win season, and then last year we ranked them in the top 10 again. They finally corrected some of those just dumb issues with field goals, turnovers. They went out and won as many games as anyone in the entire NFL. So the narrative hasn't changed a ton now over the last year. It's still an incredibly talented roster, but for a team that does not have a home field advantage, can they overcome that obstacle and some of the other things on their team and really not be a playoff team? Because there's no doubt that this team, as we saw last year, can be one of the best in the NFL. But can they go and finally bring home a Super Bowl for Phillip Rivers and this Chargers team? So that's what this entire deep dive is going to be all about. So if you enjoy and if you learn something, please do hit that like button. It's the easiest way to support the channel and share this video. Also, make sure you subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any more of these deep dive uploads. Also, if you want a way to support this channel, if you're shopping for tickets, go to SeatGeek. You'll get the best prices there anyway, and use promo code ThatFranchiseGuy, and you'll actually save $20, and everyone can win. So definitely go check that out. If you're new to the series, what we do is we go through the roster, we rank each position, how they stack up against the rest of the league. While we do that, you will be looking at my own custom Madden roster. So yes, it is a video game, but they are my own ratings, and it's a nice little graphic to show how I perceive each player. After that, we'll go through the schedule, we'll go game by game, and talk about this team's Vegas over-under and my win total expectations, division odds, playoff odds, Super Bowl odds, all that good stuff. So make sure you stick around till the end of the video. So let's just get right into it here and start going through this roster. Like we said, one of the best in the entire NFL. Starting with the quarterback position, they're going to come in 8th in the NFL. Phillip Rivers, that elite pocket passing type. He is certainly in the top 3 in the NFL in terms of kind of knowing where the ball needs to go before the ball even gets snapped. Now, sometimes that can get him in some trouble against disguised defenses, or if he's under pressure and the play hasn't fully developed yet, he can force some things, and that is what is going to kind of separate him from the elite of the elite. And I think at times that's why we have seen him not be the best in the playoffs against potentially better defenses with more time to prepare and disguise some stuff. That's probably his biggest criticism as far as his arm is concerned. He doesn't have the strongest arm. It's NFL average. It looks a little funky at times because he has a release that you would never coach a young quarterback to throw the ball like Phillip Rivers. He's got this kind of half-corked, side-winding release, but it works for Phillip Rivers, and he is perennially one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. So coming in 8th, he is certainly an asset for this Chargers team, and as with any year, is going to help this team win a lot of games. Behind him, it's a little interesting. I applaud this Chargers team all the time. I think this, with Tom Telesco, is one of the best front offices in the NFL at recognizing both value and just league trends, and a lot of their moves are supported by analytics as well. Not to say that this specific conversation is analytically based, but what I'm trying to say here is their 3 backups here, Tyrod Taylor, Cardale Jones, and Easton Stick, a 5th-round pick, are all incredibly mobile players and are very, poor comparisons to Phillip Rivers. Their offense would change significantly if anything tragic did happen to Phillip Rivers. But I like what they're doing here because, I don't like having a Tom Savage or a Brock Osweiler as my backup, who is never going to be able to throw the ball at a high level anyway. I would much rather at least get a mobile guy that you can scheme up some play action, help out the run game, elude pressure, and create plays with his feet to at least increase the floor of the offense, similar to what we've seen in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. So I love what they have with the backups here. Tyrod Taylor, one of the 5 to 10 best backups in the NFL. If Phillip Rivers, couldn't go for a week or two, I think this team could still be a pretty damn good football team with Tyrod Taylor. I think this team would still be a borderline playoff team, honestly, with how talented this roster is with a good backup like Tyrod. So you like to have that in there. And then Easton Stick, an interesting 5th-round pick. To me, Case Keenum, a good comparison for him. Stick is a little more athletic, a little thicker, runs a little better, but just, to me, lacks that threshold in terms of arm strength to open up the entire field and really be a legitimate starter, but could be a good career backup and someone to kind of learn from Tyrod Taylor, who's a good comparison for him. So 8th at quarterback, that's obviously going to help out this top 10 ranking for this team. And then we have a very interesting conversation. I'm sure a lot of you guys waiting to hear what I have to say about the recent Melvin Gordon news that he is asking to either get a contract extension here or to be traded. And it's very interesting. To me, I get it, Melvin Gordon, like you're frustrated. I would take it up with the NFLPA and get ready for the upcoming renegotiations of that, because I've been saying this for years. Running backs get absolutely screwed, and Melvin Gordon is the primo example of this. If you're a first-round pick at running back, you're playing 5 years before you are up for your first contract. For a lot of these guys, they're 26, 27 years old. Running backs kind of die at like 28, 29 years old. There's obviously outliers, but for the most part, Melvin Gordon knows he probably has 2, maybe 3 elite years left in him, and he wants to hit that contract extension before he starts to show some aggression. So I totally get it from his end, but if you're the Chargers, you have all of the leverage. For one, if Melvin Gordon's going to ask for Todd Gurley and Le'Veon Bell money, which why wouldn't he? He's right in that same conversation to me. Who the hell in the league is going to trade a 3rd-round pick and then pay him? Like, we already saw the market for a high-end running back at that price, and there was 2 teams really in the entire conversation, the Jets and the Ravens. Well, the Jets got Le'Veon Bell, and the Ravens signed Mark Ingram, and I don't think they would make that move. So I really don't think there's much of a trade market. Like, why would the Chargers accept a 4th or a 5th round pick for Melvin Gordon? Like, I would rather just take the risk that he's going to come in and play. And then if you're Melvin Gordon, you're kind of screwed too, because if you sit out the season, which might actually be his best option, you're going to miss out on $5.5 million, but you're guaranteeing yourself a 4-year, 5-year, $45+ million contract. If he comes out and plays and suffers a significant injury, this is a player that's had injury history, he's not going to get that money. So maybe you find a good insurance policy and you go out and play and hope you don't get hurt, and you could really make a lot of money. But, it might make sense for Melvin Gordon to do what Le'Veon Bell did and just sit this thing out. The third option here is the Chargers cave in and give him a contract, but this is, like I said, a pretty smart front office. They recognize that you probably should not pay your running back $16 million, especially when they have a lot of talented players on this roster that they're going to want to keep. So if you can get Melvin Gordon in that $10 to $12 million range, I think he is the rare kind of running back that is worth paying. He's a true 3-down back. But I don't see Melvin Gordon agreeing to that. So it's kind of a sloppy situation. To me, I don't see Melvin Gordon playing for anyone other than the Chargers this year or his couch. So those are my kind of thoughts on if Melvin Gordon will be here. So if he's here, this running back room comes in 4th for me. It's not just Melvin Gordon, who I think is a little bit underrated, a top 6, 7 back, a true 3-down back. There's only so many of those in the NFL. He is a total stud. But you also have Austin Eckler here, a fantastic receiving back, probably one of the 5 best receiving backs in the entire NFL, and he can do some nice things between the tackles as well. So if Gordon sat out, I actually really like what you have in Austin Eckler in the receiving game, and then Justin Jackson can play. I was stunned that he fell to the 7th round. He's a little quicker than fast, but he's another guy that actually has some 3-down back upside. He can run for power. He's very shifty as well and has a little bit of size. So, I really like Justin Jackson. If Melvin Gordon sits out, I think Justin Jackson is a potential breakout player for next season. He just made plays at Northwestern in the Big Ten, and I just really like his game. So you got 3 running backs that I really like here, and then you also have Detrez Newsome, who showed some explosiveness last year as well. So yeah, they rank 4th. Obviously, that would be dropped outside of the top 10 if Melvin Gordon sits out. It wouldn't really move the needle too much because running back only gets 2% in our power rankings anyway. And what we are seeing from the Chargers' ability to replace Melvin Gordon's production with guys like Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson, or like what C.J. Anderson did replacing Todd Gurley last year. That's why it's only 2%. It's not that running backs can't change the game. It's that everyone has good running backs because they're just easy to find. But, regardless of what happens with the Gordon situation, I'm really not worried about the running back situation here for the Chargers. And you know what else I'm not worried about? This wide receiver room who comes in tied for third. Keenan Allen, one of the best receivers in the NFL, certainly top 10 to me. I've seen lists that keep him outside of the top 10, and that really leaves me scratching my head. He's one of the best route runners in the entire NFL, has elite foot quickness and release, solid hands. His rapport with Phillip Rivers is almost unguardable. These guys' abilities to find the holes in the zone defenses on third downs is almost unparalleled. So you love what you have in Keenan Allen. And then Mike Williams. I kind of have to say I was wrong about Mike Williams. Not necessarily going to apologize for ranking him where I did in that draft with like the 6th in that class, because the reason he came in 6th is because I loved Kenny Golladay and Chris Godwin, who are fantastic players in their own right, and this could be a potential breakout season for that wide receiver class. But anyway, Mike Williams has really impressed me with his ability to separate, his playmaking ability after the catch. I saw him as something like an Alshon Jeffrey, and that still might be his ceiling, but he reached that much quicker than I thought he ever would be, and frankly, with his route running ability and just after the catch ability, it's more impressive at times than what we've seen from Alshon Jeffrey, and he might have a ceiling closer to like a Mike Evans or maybe Adam Thielen. Like, he is just fantastic. Obviously, the guy can attack the football and out-physical guys for the catch. That was never a concern, but his ability to separate and get open is a big reason you're going to remain optimistic here. And then they still have Hunter Henry here, a forgotten man, torn ACL last year. Before the injury, was one of the 3 best tight ends in the entire NFL. ACLs, while they have a long recovery time, have really been kind of perfected by modern medicine, and it's pretty rare these days that a single fluky ACL injury, a la Keenan Allen, as we've seen here, is actually going to ruin a guy's career. So I'm pretty optimistic as well that Hunter Henry is going to resume his career as one of the 5 best tight ends in the NFL and one of the bigger mismatches in the entire league. So you have some truly elite receiver options here. And we were probably doing the Chargers a disservice during the Vikings deep dive when we said they had the clear-cut best wide receiver duo in the NFL. We also threw the Browns in that ring. I think the Chargers have got to get into that conversation as well. You do have significant questions about the depth here. At wide receiver, you got Travis Benjamin, who's a deep threat who can't catch and a kick returner. Dylan Cantrell, he's kind of a big-bodied, physical receiver, but I don't expect much from him in the separation department, a 6th-round pick in 2018. Artavis Scott, an interesting player. He's still on this team. He was an undrafted slot wide receiver out of Clemson in 2017. I actually like his game. If he won the starting slot job here, I would keep an eye on Artavis Scott as a super sleeper here for the Chargers. You got Jeremy Davis, Andre Patton. Someone's going to step up in this wide receiver room with the departure of Tyrell Williams. The clear guy you point to is Travis Benjamin, who is similar to Tyrell Williams, who has that high-end speed and the drop issues to boot. But I would definitely keep an eye on Artavis Scott. He's an interesting player. And then the tight end room, there's no one you're too excited about either. You got Virgil Green, who's a blocking specialist. You got Sean Culkin, Vince Mile, Andrew Vollert. Nothing to really speak of. So a top-heavy group to be certain. If they still stay healthy, though, it's a top 3 group of weapons in the NFL. And, pair that with Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon, what they can do in both the running and receiving game. And it's just super explosive here. But the offensive line drags this thing down so much. And there might be people that are surprised that I'm a little, lower on this Chargers team who, like we said, won as many games as anyone in the entire NFL. And this is a team that I've always really liked. But this offensive line is miserable, man. You do have the left tackle and a center, Russell Okung and Mike Pouncey. They're studs, but they're also getting a year older here. And the other 3 starters here are, you could argue, not even replacement level starters. The guard play stinks. And your right tackle, Sam Tevy, is a true liability. So you're probably going to be starting Michael Schofield, Dan Feeney at guard. Definitely not ideal. Can they get Forrest Lamp to, be the player he was in college? That would help things out here for sure. But At this point, I'm done believing in Forrest Lamp. It's been 2 years here as one of the bigger, sleeper guys in the 2017 class, a second-round pick. He just hasn't worked out. Got Spencer Drango, Scott Kessenberry, Cole Toner. They draft Trey Pipkins in the 3rd round. He'll compete with Sam Tevi. I don't know if he'll win it out. He's a good athlete out of Sioux Falls. We'll see what they might have there. If Pipkins and Lamp, I guess, reach their potential, this could be a little better. But this offensive line really worries me, paired with Phillip Rivers' inability to elude pressure and extend plays. They've got enough playmakers here to be a very productive offense, and we'll transition here and rank this offense here as the 12th offense in the NFL. So I'm not saying it's going to be a bad offense, but you're going to see some inconsistencies, a lot of 3-and-outs and stuff because of this offensive line not being able to buy the time that they need for this offense to really flourish. So if I'm lower on this Chargers team in any regard, it's a combination of that and the fact that they don't have a home field advantage. And for a team that does need to win a lot of road games, something they were really able to do last year, offensive lines don't travel on the road very well. And while they did it last year, that is hard to project moving forward. So then we transition to the defense, which is also going to come in ranked 12th. And this defense is the definition of the modern defense in 2019. You've got the Seattle scheme here with Gus Bradley. This team loves to run zone coverage, nickel defenses with 2 linebackers, bringing safeties into the box, using Derwin James in that Cam Chancellor role, really moving him all over the field. Now, the only problem here is this was one of, maybe the only team in the NFL that couldn't stop the run. So let's talk about the run defense here, which is, again, going to come in 32nd in the NFL. And we have spent over an hour probably combined on all these deep dives talking about how run defense just doesn't matter. Well, it does when you can't stop the run at all. And that is exactly what we saw the Patriots do to this team in the playoffs. They just mauled them up front. And that's definitely an outlier in 2019. You just don't see that a lot. And that is a concern for this Chargers team. It's not going to be the end-all, be-all. Like, you can still, the Patriots were one of the best running offenses in the NFL last year. You're going to be able to stop a lot of run games with the guys they have here, but I do have some concerns up front here. So they draft Jerry Tillery in the 1st round. Was definitely a need to have a just kind of monster up front. I thought he was a little more raw. I had a 2nd round grade on him. They took him at the end of the 1st. I'm not going to really harp on that. But I don't know if he's going to be a fantastic run defender right away, though he just might be their best. You do have Brandon Mebane here, another year older, but he is pretty solid, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was actually out against the Patriots in that game, so that obviously hurt this team. Behind him, you got no one you're really excited about. Justin Jones, Ty McGill, Damon Square. These guys are more effective as pass rushers on the interior than physical run defenders. So really lacking depth on the D-line and just overall talent in general. Jerry Tillery could surprise some people, but to me, he is a guy that is going to have to learn and grow and develop and grow into his body a little bit more too. So I do have certainly worries about this run defense, but the rest of this defense is so phenomenal, man. This is the best pass defense in the NFL because you talk about this pass rush. To me, it ranks tied for 3rd. You've got Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram. These are both elite guys. They're not Von Miller or Khalil Mack or J.J. Watt, but, they're still what I would consider a tier 2 elite pass rushers. Both top 15 guys pretty easily. And, the crazy thing is Bosa didn't even really play for this team until late in the season. He didn't start getting, full-time reps until week 13, and even then it took him a little time to get up to speed. So is he going to be healthy, Joey Bosa? He clearly was not the player we've gotten used to him being the first 2 years of his career. So, if he gets back to being a top 3 or 4 edge rusher in this league, which you certainly could, then this pass defense is going to be even better than it was last year. And he's going to help out in the run defense as well because he's a bigger-bodied edge guy. And then Melvin Ingram, too. Uber explosive, just super solid, great player. Like, this edge rush, I can't really say enough about this team, and this has been the center of my optimism for this team for years, is this combo of guys flying off the edge. Like, you can't double team both these guys. And then if Jerry Tillery can emerge as a good power rusher on the inside, which I think if he makes an impact as a rookie, that's where it's going to be, is just being kind of an elite athlete and a physical presence on the inside, someone you got to keep your eye on. After that, you got Isaac Rochelle. He obviously played a lot last year as Bosa was getting healthy, and he held his own. He proved that he can be a low-level starter. He'll rotate in here and be a player, but nothing that's really moving the needle. And then Anthony Lanier is the depth. They don't have a ton of bodies here. You also need to talk a good bit about Uchenna Nwosu and also Emeka Egbuli, who's a similar player coming out of college. These guys are that kind of Bruce Irvin role. They'll play a little off-ball linebacker. They'll drop into coverage off the edge. They'll rotate in here just as their Rio position. Like, he's just a very versatile player. He had a good rookie season last year, and even if his quantified position here is an outside linebacker in this 4-3 scheme. So third for the pass rush, not really many bad things to say other than lacking an elite interior guy, but that's not the end of the world when Ingram and Bosa are your edge guys. And then we've got the linebackers here. They've got a ton of bodies here. No one's, a very good player. Thomas Davis is a very good player, but he's pretty old. I don't know if you're expecting him to play at an elite level. Where do we even start here? You've got Denzel Perriman is kind of the run defending middle linebacker, the guy that's going to probably play the most snaps here. You've got Kaiser White, who's more of a safety than a linebacker. He's like their weak side nickel linebacker. He had a great rookie season. He's one of the more promising young cover linebackers in the NFL, even though he's not a guy you're going to stick between the tackles and thump. You got Jatavis Brown, a little undersized, but he's super athletic. He's got some good coverage ability and sideline-to-sideline movement skills. We already talked about Uchenna Nwosu, who plays many different roles for this defense. These guys are all going to rotate, and they even spent a 4th-round pick on Drew Tranquill, who's a smart middle linebacker type. Like, I'm a big fan of this linebacker room. They've done a good job to continue to address it and upgrade here. These guys are all going to play and move all over the place. It's just a very solid group of linebackers. They come in tied for 20th. It's probably not necessarily going to be considered a strength by me, but certainly not a weakness either, because you just got so many guys here. And then the secondary here, they get a big gold star here. This year, we increased the weight for secondary in terms of the power rankings. So to be ranked the best secondary in the NFL, obviously a big win for this Chargers team. At corner, you have Casey Hayward, who continues to be one of the 10 best corners in the NFL. Good to see him kind of get that payday and be paid like it, because when he was signed out of Green Bay, it was an absolute bargain to play on 3 years at $5 million a year as one of the best corners in the NFL was just a steal for this team. His instincts in zone, his playmaking abilities, his familiarity with this scheme as the outside corner, it's pretty special. He's not an elite athlete. His man-to-man coverage ability is good, not great. But with how steady he is on the outside, he definitely helps this team out quite a bit. And then on the other side opposite, they've done such a good job developing these guys within this scheme. Trevor Williams, Michael Davis, very similar guys. Both guys north of 6 feet tall, a little skinnier. So they move really well at that size. It's not like these are 6 foot, 215 pound corners where they're stiff. They have the length to press and play that zone coverage, but they're quick enough to break on balls and react to stuff in short areas as well. So these guys are going to be a really good, either starter or depth on the outside. Both those guys can play. And then obviously you've got the best nickel corner in the NFL in Desmond King, who's just a dominant, elite ball skills and instincts. Great as a run defender, as a blitzer. This guy is just a total headache to deal with because he moves all over the place. He shuts down these slot wide receivers, rather. And he takes away so many of the easy passes that a lot of offenses really, kind of base their offenses off of. So he is a huge problem. He's not a guy you want running vertical outside with the elite receivers in the NFL. but he is just a dominant chess piece for this defense. And then you get to the safeties, so good. Derwin James has got to be in the conversation for the best safety in the NFL. Now, he's not your, rangy free safety. He could be a very good free safety, but you'd be underutilizing his skills. He plays so much in the box. He really plays everything. He'll play slot corner, linebacker. He will play some free safety. Like, he's just so versatile. Definitely check out Brett Coleman's film breakdown of him and what he allows this team to do schematically. He can really just eliminate one player from the play, and it really opens things up and makes things easier on all of these other defenders, especially in zone coverage. So he's a big reason this is the number one secondary in the NFL. And then just an embarrassment of riches, you add Nasir Adderley, who's probably going to be more of that traditional free safety. Now, my comparison for him coming out was actually Malcolm Jenkins, who is kind of like Derwin James in that he's, probably a little better actually in the box. Not that he can't play free safety, but doesn't have elite top-end speed. He's not slow by any means, but he does have great ball skills. He can actually run man-to-man coverage. He's got really good quickness at some good size. Like, he'll be an upgrade at free safety for this team, most certainly. He was just too good of a player for them to pass up in the second round. That was one of the best picks in the entire draft. And then you've got depth, too. You got Adrian Phillips, really good veteran, like third safety. He'll play a lot in this team's. They run a lot of dime. They'll take linebackers and interior guys off the field and put extra D-backs on the field. It really is just an embarrassment of wealth here with the depth in this secondary. Because you also have Jalen Watkins. He can play a little bit, but then Rashawn Jenkins really didn't even play last year. I think he was battling some injuries, but he came in late in the season and took to an almost starting caliber role on this team and actually played pretty solid. So super deep in the secondary, and they're top heavy as well. So you love what they bring to the table. Like I said, it's the best pass defense in the NFL, the combination of the pass rush and the secondary. And it could be even better this year with getting Joey Bosa in there healthy and adding Nasir Adderley. So the defense to me comes in 12th. And yes, they have the best pass defense in the NFL, and it is a huge asset for this team. But really, besides the offensive line, a big thing with this team for me is just in general, the lack of home field advantage. I can't say that enough. You look back at the elite defenses that have been Super Bowl winning defenses. Seattle, Denver, when you have a true crowd behind you, it's a real thing because it forces offenses to go to the silent count. You literally see the guard tap the center and the ball gets snapped. You can literally key in on when the ball is getting snapped, and that's a massive advantage. It's not just this, historical data says home teams are better. It's a real thing. Like, crowd noise legitimately helps your team win football games. I'm not just making this BS up. If you think I'm too low on this Chargers team, like, that is the number one reason that I can't rank the best roster in the NFL as a top 5 team. I just have a really hard time seeing this defense becoming consistently elite, paired with the fact that they don't really stop the run at all. Now, I will say, getting Joey Bosa back healthy, adding Nasir Adderley, on paper, this seriously could be like the best on-paper defense in the last 20 years. But they don't have the crowd noise to support that. So, as we transition here to the schedule, where do I come in on this team? Because I'm so uncomfortable, if you can't tell, sitting here almost talking down the Chargers, who I have loved for years. And I'm sure people are going to tell me I do rank this team too low. Well, here you go. I've got them winning 12 games. Here's the schedule. I can't really explain why they were so good on the road last year. You would think that a team with this offensive line would not be able to travel and be as good on the road as they were last year. But there is a certain cultural thing going on with this team where they say, you know what? Every game is a road game for us. We're going to learn how to play without a home field advantage. And they've really been effective at that, and I expect some of that to continue into next year. So I still definitely buy into this team as one of the best regular season teams in the league. But the ultimate question here is, can they do it? Can they win a Super Bowl? Yes, they can. They're 14-1 to win the Super Bowl right now. Am I making this bet? No, I'm not. As much as I love this team, offensively, they're super good. They're top 12 offense, but Phillip Rivers has consistently struggled in the playoffs, and with this offensive line, I don't see this being some elite offense. It's super good. But these aren't going to be the Chiefs last year, where they're going to be able to go on the road and put up consistently 45 points. It's a consistent 25 to 30 point offense. And then defensively, again, incredibly good. But for one, they're a liability in the run game. But also just with that lack of crowd noise, I don't know if they're going to be the Legion of Boom or the no-fly zone in terms of pass defense without that extra advantage getting, the extra head start from your pass rushers. So to me, that is kind of where, the ceiling is for my optimism. For years, I've been saying this Chargers team is underrated, but now I'm sitting here with some pretty serious hesitations on if they can return dividends as a top 5 team. They are plus 190 to win the division. That's actually fine with me. If you want to bet on the Chargers this year, I think that's the bet to make right there. Because if they play this division 3 times, I'd say that the Chargers win it at least once. This is going to be a really damn good team in the regular season. But I do think that's kind of where my optimism might stop this year. Especially when the AFC to me is a little better this year than it was last year. So that is going to do it. I know there's Chargers fans out there somewhere, so let me know what your expectations for this team are this year. Rest of you NFL fans, let me know your thoughts as well. Cheers as always, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace.